Last week, we covered how to design a database and tables. And this week, you are going to learn how to take that design and actually create the database and the tables using SSMS and SQL. So you're going to start out by reading through chapters 11 and 12. Chapter 11 goes through the commands to create the database and the tables using SQL. The nice thing about the SQL commands is they work in SQL Server and they also work in any SQL application because they are SQL commands. So they're kind of universal, which is why I would focus on kind of learning some of these commands. Um, and the commands are split into a couple different categories, DDL and DML. DML commands, I just remember it as modifying data, okay? Um, so it's the data manipulation language, but you're basically modifying the data. So you are retrieving rows, modifying the data that's in rows, deleting rows, inserting data, that kind of thing. DDL, data definition language, that is where you're actually creating database objects. These are objects that are stored in SSMS. So the database itself, the command that you use is a DDL command. To create your tables, those are DDL commands. Later on, we'll talk about creating views. Those are DDL commands. Anything that is stored as an object in the database is created or modified using a DDL command. Okay, so what we're going to be covering today are DDL commands. And so this is a little summary of the commands. And the lecture demo walks you through how to create the database and how to delete it, obviously, and then how to create the tables. Okay, and lastly, we cover how to create indexing. Okay, so make sure you read through this carefully and practice using the interactive exercises. The textbook assignment is designed to give you practice on all of those DDL commands. Okay, and the textbook assignment has videos that you can watch that will walk you through this. And then you will upload your SQL file with all of those commands to the Dropbox. Chapter 12 shows you how to accomplish basically the same tasks as Chapter 11, but you're using the SSMS interface, so you're using SSMS menu commands instead of SQL commands. And to be honest, the only time I use the SSMS menus is if a SQL command doesn't work for some reason or another. Okay? But the chapter covers how to use the various DDL commands in the SSMS menus. And this summarizes how to do all of that. And it shows you kind of what the various dialog boxes look like. The textbook assignment then is going to give you practice on using the menu commands in SSMS. Because as I mentioned, occasionally the SQL commands don't work. So you do need to be aware of an alternate way of accomplishing the same task, and that is through the menus. So you are going to go through the textbook assignment, and again, there's videos throughout. And then you will upload that assignment to the Dropbox. Now, both of those textbook assignments are due at the end of the week. And so is the unit test, although I do usually keep that open a little bit longer. You will notice that I've also added milestone 2 to this week's work, but it is not due for a couple weeks. What milestone 2 involves is creating the database and the tables for your project, and you will also be adding the data to those tables. And so creating the database, the tables, adding the data, that's all part of milestone 2. And at this point, what you know how to do is you know how to create the database and the tables. You can create your foreign keys and you can create the indices. That is all covered this week. Okay, and so I've got videos that actually walk you through how to do all of that. I have sample scripts that you can look at. Okay, and so this is what you are going to be working on for part of your milestone. Now, you are going to have to submit the scripts so that I can create your database and tables on my computer. Okay, and if you save them like I did along the way, awesome. Okay. Um, if you did not save them along the way, then you are going to have to go through this process of exporting a script because I need to be able to create your database, your tables on my system so that I can check your keys, check your indices, make sure you created everything correctly. Okay, so um, that is all part of milestone 2. Okay, also you will need a database diagram. And here is your Dropbox. But again, this you have a couple weeks to get this done. Um, then Unit 2 quiz covers basically the design of a database and creating the database itself and tables. And so this is the same format as our other quizzes where it's going to use your highest score, open book, open note, and you can take it up to 3 times. I did include some additional information here if you are interested in looking at it. Okay. And if you run into any problems, especially when you're working on the project, you will have to send me your scripts. Typical problems occur when you are trying to do the foreign keys. That is very normal. I expect for some of you to have those issues. And so please email your scripts to me so that I can take a look at them and help you troubleshoot.